Hello and welcome. Almost everyone has that one friend with a brilliant startup idea. Heck, maybe that person is you. But turning that little spark into a real, successful business, that is a whole different ballgame. So what's the secret? What really separates the dreamers from the builders? Let's get into the harsh reality of why so many startups just don't make it.
Yeah, look at that number, 90%. In India, a staggering 90% of startups fail. And listen, that's not just a statistic on a slide. That's a graveyard of dreams, of life savings, of countless sleepless nights. So the real question, the one we need to answer is, why? What are the 10% doing that the other 90% just aren't?
All right, so the first major pitfall, the first place this all goes wrong, it starts with a really dangerous mindset. A lot of people treat starting a business like it's some kind of casual experiment, a backup plan. But as you're about to see, that way of thinking, it's pretty much the first step right off a cliff.
You've heard this story a million times, right? A student doesn't get that campus job placement they wanted, or a professional suddenly gets laid off. And the first thought is, well, I guess I'll start my own thing. Just experiment with it. The problem begins right there with that one little word, experiment.
This quote it hits the nail on the head. Treating entrepreneurship like some casual trial run is the fastest way to fail. This isn't a side project you can just dabble in. It's an all-consuming commitment. It demands a complete and total change to your entire lifestyle. So before you even start dreaming about your big idea, you have to face the real cost. Really face it. There's no fixed salary coming in every month. Forget about weekends. Your brain is never, ever going to shut off. You'll have way less time for your family, for your friends, and the financial pressure. It's on you 24/7. So the first question isn't, is my idea good? It's, am I truly ready for this? Okay, so let's say you are ready. You're ready for the sacrifice. Now we can talk about the idea itself. There's this huge myth out there that if nobody else is doing what you want to do, you've basically struck gold. But what if the exact opposite is true? You can just picture it, can't you? A few friends are hanging out in a coffee shop. Someone has an idea. They do a quick Google search on their phone and find no direct competitors. The energy is electric. Wow, nobody is doing this. We're going to be first. We're going to be rich. This is where so many startup journeys begin, and unfortunately, where a lot of them end. And this is where that common wisdom gets flipped completely upside down. The absence of competition isn't a green light. It's a massive, flashing red flag. It doesn't mean you're a genius. It means you have some serious detective work to do. This is probably the single most important question you can ask at this stage. Why hasn't anyone else done this? Is it because the market doesn't actually exist? Is it because customers in that area just aren't willing to pay for something like this? Or maybe is it because other people have tried, failed spectacularly, and you just don't know about it yet? No competition often just means no market. This brings us to the most critical step of all, the one that, you guessed it, most founders completely skip. And it's the number one reason they fail. It's all about something called validation.
Just let that sink in. Of that 90% that fail, about 3/4 of them fail for the exact same reason. They jump straight into building a solution for a problem that they never actually proved exists. They fall in love with their solution, not with the customer's problem.
A great way to think about this is to act like a good doctor. A doctor doesn't just hear you cough once and immediately prescribe surgery, right? No. They spend most of their time on the diagnosis, running tests, asking questions, ruling things out to find the real root cause. Founders have to do the same thing. You need to be obsessed with diagnosing the problem, not just rushing to build the cure. And you know who's learned this lesson the hard way? Investors. Believe me. Years ago, you could maybe get funding with a cool idea on a PowerPoint deck. Not anymore. Today, investors want proof. They don't care about traction or how many free downloads you have. They want to see paying customers. They want to know you've already validated that real people will open their wallets for what you're selling. Okay, let's move on to the third fatal flaw. And this one is all about money. There's this amazing Sanskrit term, aramba shuratvam, which basically means a big burst of initial enthusiasm or grandeur. In the startup world, it's the trap of spending money on the appearance of success before you have any actual success. And right here, you see two completely different paths. The 90% that fail, they often spend their first checks on the show, a fancy office, branded t-shirts, Instagram posts from their first board meeting in Dubai. The ones that succeed, They're laser-focused on one thing and one thing only, the product. They operate lean, often from home, because every single rupee counts. So what does doing it the right way actually look like? Well, let's take a real-world example. This is the story of Anama Coffee, and it's a perfect illustration of a disciplined, lean strategy we call the minimum viable product, or MVP. So the founder, he was a well-paid software developer. He didn't just quit his job and immediately run to super fancy shop. No way. Instead, he started small. He set up pop-up stalls at weekend markets, renting a coffee machine just one day at a time. He used simple paper cups to prove, with actual paying customers, that people liked his coffee. Only after he validated the idea did he invest in a permanent location. Now that is true discipline.
This quote just sums it all up perfectly. As a person, your personal money is your own. Spend it how you want. But when it comes to the company, every single decision has to be a business expense. You can't use company money to fund your lifestyle. That line, it is absolutely critical.
So as we start to wrap this up, what's the common thread here? What are the core principles that really, truly matter? What's the real mindset that separates the winners from everyone else? When you boil it all down, it comes back to one word: discipline. Financial discipline to treat the company's money with respect, customer focus to validate a real painful problem before you even think about building anything, lean operations to build a minimum viable product, not an empire on day one, and just a relentless, horse with blinders on focus. This mindset is why so many successful founders like Mark Zuckerberg are famous for focusing on the product, not on personal branding. It's just a form of deep, deep discipline. So after hearing all of this, the sacrifice, the brutal honesty, the intense discipline that's required, the real question isn't whether your idea is good. The question is, are you personally truly ready for this journey? Think about it.